Welcome to the GateDrop podcast. GateDrop.com, giving you the jump in motocross news.
Hello and welcome to GateDrop.com, a new podcast with myself, Jonathan McCready, and Andy McKinstry. Today we're just going to talk about the Russian GP, the long-awaited return of World Championship Motocross. And I guess, Andy, the first thing we'll talk about is it's good to have MXGP back. You've been waiting a long time. You were texting me in January, waiting for it to start. So how do you feel it's finally returned?
Well, Jonathan, first of all, we're 5 years behind, but we've finally got a GateDropPod going. So good news on that front. On MXGP, finally, as you said, finally it's back. It was very anticipated coming into the season, but also this year with not really having a pre-season as such, because the riders didn't even know when they were going to start the season. Coming in, you sort of had no idea who the main man was going to be, and you could pick a name out of a hat really. But yeah, it was great to get it going at a very slick, technical, hard-packed Russia track, and it produced some very good racing. I thought it was frantic at times.
And the main man was the same man as last year, Tim Geiser. I thought his performance was pretty much unbelievable. Maybe the best ride of his career in that second moto. Everyone had time to test this year. Caroli was back fit. Jeffrey Hurling was back. Prado wasn't injured this year, and he came out, beat everyone, cutting past everyone, and really stamped his authority on the start of the season.
I have to agree. I think that was his 27th Grand Prix win, and for me, that was by far the most impressive. I mean, he's won big GPs before, even at Lommel and stuff, and I know this was his track, but in terms of sheer speed, that was just phenomenal. I've never really seen that sort of ride from him before, and I know Jeffrey was only maybe 80% fit, but at times in the past, Jeffrey at 80% fit can win. I've never really seen somebody pass Jeffrey like that and 2 laps later be gone. So from that side of it, it was very good. I would like to touch on Prado. I expected a lot coming in to the season from Prado, and maybe just maybe the pressure got to him after his rookie season. Him in his head, you know, he's going for the title this year, make no mistake about it. And it's not like Prado to make mistakes, because he usually positions himself very well in the motos, which he did do, by the way, but just a few uncharacteristic mistakes crept in. But you know, there's no need to hit the panic button. He'll be back and on it at Matterley and beyond.
You picked him for the title, so do you think you've perhaps jinxed him after going for Hurlings all these years?
It wouldn't be like me, so probably.
I think it was maybe just one. The first moto was one mistake, costly mistake, but the positive of that was he came through the pack pretty well on a hard track to come through the field. Second moto, just a first turn start incident, and I don't think anybody was going to replicate what Tim Geiser did. But Geiser's corner speed was something else on that GoPro. The way he passed Hurlings, that right-hander, it was like watching a video game.
Yeah, just on Prado, I agree. The first moto, I actually think he rode well to come up through the pack and pass Kohlenhoff in the last lap for 9th. That was a good ride under the circumstances. It was more the second moto. I mean, if you look at his lap times weren't all that great. So maybe just after the first moto, maybe the pressure got to him. But like I said, he'll be back around to go at round 2, and he'll be right at the front in no time again. And yes, Geiser's, what I would say is on that first lap, he took a lot of risks, and I'm not sure how many guys in that situation will take those risks. Jeffrey's been at the hospital for pretty much every season since 2018. I'm not sure he's going to take those risks anymore. Caroli's been the kind of guy that's never really liked taking unnecessary risks. But, you know, Geiser hasn't been injured in a while. He's the man to beat in terms of titles. He's got 2 in a row now. So he probably feels invincible. And maybe until he gets injured again, he will keep taking the risks.
What I thought was most impressive, Geyser, as often in the past when Jeffrey's been in the race, that's when Tim's crashed, trying to get back to him or trying to run that pace. Even last year's first half of the season was, while he had an awful speed, he was a wee bit shaky. I think he crashed and would win one moto and crash in the other. But as soon as Hurlings got hurt last year, he became the dominant force, was picking and choosing his battles. But we haven't seen that so far with Hurlings in the race. And I think Russia, we just seen it for the first time. He was the one that was calm when he came back from that incident in the first turn. He made aggressive moves, yes, in the first lap, but it worked for him and he got straight in behind Hurlings, past Hurlings, pulled away from Hurlings. It was his to lose all day. Even whenever it looked like he was going to lose it, he still managed to win it under pressure. And that might be a big turning point in his career. It's maybe proved to him that he can beat Hurlings every race, whether or not he's a good or bad day, or whether he has to risk it or not. He's able to get away with it now.
Yes, I would agree with that. One thing I would say is, I think because of the track, I think a lot of people did have Geyser down to win this weekend. I personally did.
Yeah, that's true.
But like you said, it was the way he won, which was impressive. I mean, to come from virtually last in the second moto to first, that's pretty much unheard of in MXGP, whether the track suits him or not. So he will get a massive confidence booster from that, like you said, and moving forward, it can do him the world of good. But I am looking forward to Matterley Basin because it's a track all the riders pretty much like. So it will be interesting if Geyser can replicate the same speed again. One, it'll be hard to beat, but two, it'll be interesting to see if anybody can get closer to him.
Yeah, I think it's set Matterley Basin up even better because, as you say, Geyser set the standard. He set the bar. Everyone knows how fast he is now, and everyone knows he's really fast at Matterley Basin. But Karoli's shown his speed there in Italy, in Russia, on a hard packed track. He's back healthy. Hurlings now knows where he needs to be, and Prado, I don't think he's going to be able to cover around like he did in Russia again. And you've Roman Febvre, he was very impressive, I thought, in Russia. Even with a mistake, he was third on the podium. So everybody now needs to know they're chasing Geyser, but they're all good at Matterley Basin. They've all seen the pace, so it could be the most exciting race of the year, perhaps, because everybody's still confident and everybody knows they can't give Geyser any momentum.
Yes, I agree. A few points just from what you said there. I feel like Karoli, unbelievable speed-wise at 35 years old. But I feel like last year, the triple GPs did not suit him at all with the knee injury, having to race 3 times in a week. So number one, he's healthy this year. And number two, he's got more recovery time, which is ideal for a 35-year-old. So
Yes.
I think that might help him. And number two, I 100% agree with Roman Febvre. I think in Russia, I don't think anyone would have beat Geyser, but I think Febvre is the one that could have got the closest. But it sort of summed up his career. Something always seems to happen, or something seems to always go wrong, and he doesn't position himself very well. If Geyser could position himself better, if Febvre could position himself better, he could be right there. But it's often on the first few laps is where Febvre needs to do better, I feel, because the speed you can't question, and I think he could be a lot closer this year than what people think.
Yeah, he looked comfortable last year in the Kawasaki, but he looks even more at home this year, and maybe even a bit more aggressive, as if he's feeling he's at home and he's ready to contend for this championship. And as you say, Karoli, I don't know A, where he gets the motivation from, B, how he still finds the speed to run it at that level. He's actually improved his performance on the hard pack there in Russia at 35 years old. He still thought, I need to improve here. There's things I can still do to get better somehow, despite having 9 world titles. And I'm still disappointed for him with that crash, because second place overall, second in that race, it would have set him up nicely going into Matterley and the confidence. But now he's what is he now? Points behind here. He's 25, he's 30 points back, which is actually quite a bit already. So there's not much room for Curly to be consistent now. He's going to have to start trying to get wins already, which I don't know if he wanted to try and win every race at this point in the season already, but I'm pleased to see he's healthy, the knee's good, and the speed's still there at 35. It's remarkable.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. It was actually, even though Jeffrey didn't win, and that man is obsessed with winning, to be 80% fit and to be second overall and only to lose points on Geyser, I think is actually a very good start to the season for Jeffrey. The problem is going to be Geyser. If they let Geyser go on a winning run, somebody's going to have to knock him off his perch. But we'll see moving forward how it all goes into plan.
For Hurlings to not win, this was a bizarrely impressive race because we don't often see him not having the speed to win and being able to settle, but a fourth and a second, and he even had Geyser catching him and passing him from way back, and he still didn't ride out of his comfort zone. He made the best of what for him was a bad day, which is many other people a good day, and he's come away only 10 points behind Geyser, and he's in the best position of all the kind of big title contenders, other than Tim going into round two. So for a bad day, I think it was pretty impressive by Hurlings and shows maybe a wee bit of maturity despite his big desire to win.
Yep, I would 100% agree with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the championship battle develops. But as we all know in this sport, it's all about staying fit, and at times you need a wee bit of luck. So it will be interesting. But I think we've maybe talked enough about the title contenders in terms of there was a few guys I felt that went under the radar.
Who was the most impressive for you? Jonas, Lupino, Van Horbeck, and not just Jeremy on his own, but Jeremy Van Horbeck on the beta, brand new bike, top 10 overall there, 9th. And anyway, Brent Van Donek had a very good first moto. Who was the most impressive to you? Because they were all good in their own way.
And also, don't forget about the rookies. Thomas Kerr Olsen went very under the radar in his debut MXGP race, but actually finished 6th overall. And
he had a quiet but effective day.
Yeah, and also he's not in for the running of Rider of the Weekend or anything, but also I thought Alvin Osland done quite well with a 14-14.
Yeah, he was strong.
He was finishing that in MX2, so to replicate the same sort of race results in MXGP on his debut ride and at a track that's very slick and hard packed, it isn't his cup of tea. I thought he was impressive. But if I was given Rider of the Weekend who impressed me the most, I would have to mention Paul Jonas because he hasn't raced since Falklandsward, and I mean he could have been on the podium if the first corner of the first race didn't happen. So to get 8th overall and 3rd in Moto2 was very, very impressive. I feel like he's very, very underrated. But it has to be Alessandro Lupino for me, 4th overall, probably the best MXGP ride of his career. Everyone was there, pretty much all of the top guys anyway. And to finish 4th, very, very good. I'll have to say I wasn't expecting that.
He had looked strong in pre-season, and he put that 5th fastest time in America on a stock bike, and obviously Russia suits him. So I think he had said he's feeling as good as he ever has with the KTM this year. But still, it's one thing to be fast in pre-season and even to do what he did in America on a stock bike, but to come and do it with the pressure of the first round, get the starts, which isn't always easy, and then ride strong for the whole 30 minutes. He had a couple of guys chasing him in the second moto, and he was strong. There was no real weakness there. He was even took Hurlings a while to pass him in the first one. So he was good all day long. As you say, that's maybe one of the best performances of his career in the 450 class.
Yeah, what I would say is I think Lupino was happy at Gabon, his previous team, but how McCready KTM lured him was, I believe he's a KTM test rider. So with that comes some factory equipment. But obviously, it's still down to the rider. But I think that's how the team lured him. And so far, it looks the complete package. The rider's on for him. Looks like to have a good, solid bike there. But I would also like to mention Jodi Texia, another former MX2 World Champion. Again, I feel like he went under the radar, 13th and 10th for 11th overall.
Yeah.
A solid start to the season. And as you mentioned, Brent Van Donnick, he's a guy I've always felt like has a lot of potential, especially on the 450, but maybe mentally has been his weak point in the past if he believes he should really run up there. But I feel like last year he didn't have an MXGP ride coming into the season. But for a guy like Brent, that might be a blessing in disguise. Now he knows this is kind of maybe a last chance saloon, and he'll want to do enough to stay in the GP paddock. So if he can keep replicating that speed, 7th in the first moto, he worked himself up to 13th in Moto 2 before a crash. So it would have been a top 10 overall, but 13th overall, a very, very solid start to the season. I think he would have surprised people on that type of track as well.
Yeah, he was strong, and he backed into the second moto wasn't as good, but the overalls there for 13th. I think those sort of riders' starts are going to be so critical for them. If they can get around, start in the top 10 of the pace to kind of staying around there in battle, but coming from 20th, 25th, it's going to be a different story for them. But it proves to them that when they get the start, they have the pace. Calvin Valander had showed good speed at times as well, and Kevin Strivas 15th overall. That's not bad for him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that Gab and Yamaha have a good team together. I think all three of those riders can run in the top 10. Like you said, the start's going to be key. But why actually Brent impressed me was in the second moto, he actually did come through them. The problem was he crashed.
Yeah.
He was virtually last, and he got the 12th. That's pretty good. But the crash demoted him to 17th again. But yeah, the Gabon team has the riders have a lot of potential. I feel like Stribus, a lot of people might have been like, "Why the signing him?" This, that, and the other. But I feel like those two guys can learn off him. Stribus knows what it takes to be an elite MXGP rider, and he'll know training, what to do, and how to set up a bike. So the other two riders should only be able to learn from him.
You mentioned experience there on setting up a bike. Jeremy Van Horbeck has been doing that for Beta, but it's been a brand new bike, and he's managed to stick it top 10 in its first World Championship event, which is no mean feat. He was obviously looking good again in pre-season, a wee bit like Lapino was, but to go out and do that in the first Grand Prix, he was aggressive too, but he wasn't afraid to bang some bars there. So he's obviously feeling good and that he can push the bike. I thought that to get a Beta into the top 10 his first World Championship event was very, very impressive.
Yeah, I actually owe Jeremy an apology there. I thought I'd mentioned him, but I actually hadn't. So good pointing that out. Yes, he was very, very good debut for Beta. It's unbelievable that wasn't even a bike 7 months ago. So it shows they've worked hard in a short space of time. And Jeremy, he knows how to set up a bike. He done good work with factory Yamaha too before he signed. Guys were turning them down left, right, and centre, but he went in, set up the bike. Yamaha reaped the rewards, and now he's maybe going to do the same at Beta. I know a lot of guys turned the Beta ride it down actually because they didn't know about the bike, but maybe now they'll be thinking, that's an opportunity. Better than expected, I would say, because the bike certainly looks good. The one thing I would say is the starts weren't great for Jeremy, but in fairness to the bike, Jeremy's starts aren't known to be that great. So it's maybe not the bike's problem, but if Jeremy and the bike can work together to get out of that gate, who knows? Why not run in the top 5? It's going to be difficult, but I'm sure he can be a consistent top 10 rider after that performance.
What about Arno Tonis? Very talented. He's very similar to me to Christian Craig in America, where they've got all the style and all the talent. And on any given moto, they can run up there, but the consistency isn't always there. There in Russia, 12th overall. First moto, not as good he probably would have liked. I think he wasn't totally happy with his riding, but he still come home 12th overall at the end of the day, and he showed that he still has good pace. He just hasn't been forgotten about just yet. He's still got the stuff.
Yeah, I have to say I watched the French Elite Championship at Ernie the week before Russia, and I was a bit worried for Tonis because he got good starts and there were riders passing him all over the place. But it could have been arm pump. It was his first race of the year and he hasn't raced in a while. He definitely did find something in Russia. Again, he quietly went under the radar, 12th overall, solid start to the season. And for a new team in MXGP as well, I do believe Tonis is getting support from Wilvo. But even still, it's nice to see a new team in the paddock and get off to a good start. I know he's going to be joined by Valentin Guillot in Mallory Basin, so watch out for him as well.
Right, there's a slightly sticky topic. Factory Yamaha. Big signing Glenn Coldenhoff. To me, it looked like he just didn't have the luck at the first round. I don't think it was anything to do with speed necessarily. I think he just had a bit of bad luck, and if he'd got away at the front, had no issues, he could have been in that top five battle like his teammate Jeremy Sear. He had a good, decent day overall, consistent top five. He's put himself in the hunt again for the championship. But Glenn Coldenhoff, I think he's now okay on the Yamaha. He was, as you were saying about Ernie, he was good at Ernie there. So I'm thinking his speed on the hard pack and stuff is coming back to what it was on the KTM, but it was maybe hopefully just an unfortunate day for him. And I think the same can hopefully be said of Ben Watson. I know he doesn't like that track in Russia with a hard pack, and he never really got a good flow as Nathan beat him both motos, which I'm sure hasn't went down too well. But hopefully that was just a blip for those two guys in Matterley Basin that can come out far and get the good starts and show their speed for the new team.
Yeah, I have to say, if you had have told the factory Yamaha squad before the first round that Glenn was going to finish 19th overall and Ben was going to finish 23rd overall, definitely would not have been what they were expecting or hoping for. But I do tend to agree with Coldenhoff. They didn't have an awful lot of luck. 10th in the first moto was okay. I feel like he could have done with holding Prado off in the last lap, but these things happen. It is Prado after all. Yeah, just put that one as down to a bad day in the books and rebound for Matterley Basin. I was slightly worried for Coldenhoff earlier in pre-season, but like you said, Ernie, he did show he had stepped up from those Italian championships. So I think moving forward, he will have the pace to run at the front. But in MXGP, you need to get a good start. That's vital. As for Ben, yeah, I'm not surprised to see him struggle a little at that type of track, not known for his hard pack riding and at a concrete track. For your MXGP debut, not ideal. But yeah, it was maybe a bit of an eye opener for him, and that'll only make him work harder. I'm sure he'll come out swinging Matterley Basin in front of his home fans. As I'm talking about a British rider, I would like to throw in Adam Sterry there. Felt like in the second moto he rode very, very well.
Very,
In the
very
British
good, wasn't he?
Championship, he's been a bit off the pace from the front, maybe. Although I do know he has been getting bad starts, but the run just outside the top 10 in MXGP, and again, that track wouldn't necessarily suit Adam either. He can be happy with the second moto there and something to build on heading to Matterley Basin.
And Fox Hill this weekend too, hard packed track, so it might give him a bit of confidence, get the start and get trying to go for British moto wins as well, which would be good for Adam and the team just prior to the British GP.
Yeah, well, it's going to be hard for him to win the British Championship now, so he may as well just go for broke and try and win every moto and see how that goes for him, and just use it as practice for the GPs. But yeah, it's good to see him race the British Championship again and make it a bit competitive. On the British Championship, it is a shame to see the MX Nationals and the British Championship clash this weekend, but it's just the way it goes. I'm afraid it's a pity to see it.
It's going to make for a busy Saturday with the American Nationals and the British Nationals all on at once. But then, as you say, the British guys might have to go and do double duty and race on Sunday again, which isn't going to be easy with Hoxton. But
it's definitely far from ideal, but we'll stay out of the politics of all that.
Right, moving on to MX2. Tom Vial, nothing looks like it's really changed. Pressure doesn't seem to matter to him. Defending world champion doesn't seem to matter to him. Mistakes, I'm not sure he makes any. He didn't get the hose shot in the second moto. It might go down as a mistake for his level of riding. And within about 5 corners, he was first. So that was that done. Ruben Fernandez, who might have been the star performer in MX2, tried to rattle him, run it in on him. One of the most aggressive rides against Tom Vial I've seen, and even that didn't rattle him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know how anyone's going to beat him, at least consistently for the title, and especially with Iago getting injured. Although I thought he rode very well, especially second moto. The crash in the first corners didn't help, but his speed was actually pretty good that second moto, so that's encouraging for Natalie Basin. But how you beat Tom Vial straight up every week when he's getting starts, and if he doesn't get starts, he's getting to the lead. I don't know if you have any answers.
He's just a complete all-round package, isn't he? Really, there's not much else to say bar praise. The kid's very, very fast, and not only that, he's got an experienced head and young shoulders, I would say. Yeah, like you said, in that second moto, I was quite surprised he didn't get the whole shot, but no problem. Just lead after 4 corners. That's as good as anything. And then he just went into the distance, and that was it. For him at the moment, it's just they're like practice motos really. He just gets into his wee gap at the front and then rides his laps, click off his laps, and it's very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. I think there's somebody to beat him, they're going to have to get in his back wheel and just stay with him the whole moto and hope that he makes a mistake. But he does seem to be very good under the pressure. So it's going to be difficult. I do feel like the Kawasaki guys have a lot of speed, but those Kawasaki's out of the gate seem to be a problem. In Russia, it wasn't too bad because they qualified first and second, and having the inside gate was a big advantage. Because like if you watch the start, they got pretty much smoke coming out of the gates, but because they could cut to the inside, it wasn't too bad coming out of the first corner. But the starts could be an issue for the Kawasaki's at other tracks, which is a shame because I feel like Van der Moosdijk technically is very, very good to watch. He's got the style, he's got the speed. It's just getting out of that gate. And also the Dutch talent is known for getting arm pump at the start of the season. So actually for him to finish 4th overall and go 3-5 is very positive because a lot was expected of him last year and he did deliver, but at the first round at Mallory Basin, it was pretty disappointing from his standards. So it was a much better start of the season for Van der Moosdijk.
Do you think he can up the level from last year? Can he be a more consistent race winner and go for the title, or is he going to be a 3rd through 5th guy again? Do you think he's got maybe the self-belief and, as you say, get the starts to try and run with Vial on a consistent basis?
Yeah, I think before Russia, I probably would have said no, but he really impressed me in Russia, to be very honest. I think technically he's done something to get even better on the bike. He looked very, very good. And I think he took no risks, I think, as well. Once he got into his, position, he just sort of stayed there. He knows it's a long season. So I think he will have more. The biggest question mark is the starts. I don't think he's going to consistently get out of the gate well enough every weekend to really challenge for the title, but anything can happen.
Right, Ruben Fernandez, where did that ride come from? Yes, I know, guys, Steve Mathis said he hadn't heard of him, but he has been a top 10 rider, so it's not like he's come from completely out of nowhere. But in terms of consistent speed, both motos, good starts, aggressive riding, even with the crash in the second moto, he came back, he put Hoffer down to get second overall. This Andy on the new team, which is great for Honda, the 114 Motorsports Honda team. It shows you they have a bike going really well as well. That was an all-round good day for bike and rider.
Yes, what I would say is Fernandez was very impressive. I thought he was going to challenge for a podium actually during the first round, but I didn't think he would be quite as impressive as what he was in terms of speed. But what I would say is 114 Honda, Mitch Evans, podium on the debut, Hunter Lawrence, podium in their debut, and now that's the trio of riders, podium in their debut. So we will have to see if Ruben can maintain this kind of level, because I think it would be fair to say Evans and Hunter Lawrence both had very good speed in 114, but they weren't consistently right at the front. So that's the next challenge really for that team, is to have a rider consistently right at the front every
And
weekend.
and Ruben had been good in pre-season, but again, it wasn't against all the heavy hitters, so we knew he was fast. But to go 2-3 with a crash and give everything to try and pass Vial once Vial got him early in the second moto, I think he showed a lot. He might have to be considered into those top 3, 4, 5 positions week in, week out. As you say, if he can prove that consistency and if he can get out of the gate.
Yes, exactly. And I thought he actually rode pretty level-headed. I think the first 5 or 10 minutes he was pushing very fast, probably all he had. But I thought he would maybe try and ride like that the whole race. I think he did play level-headed and didn't go 100% balls out, as he's kind of known for. Although in his defence, he was pretty vocal about not having the best bike last year, so he probably felt he needed to ride 100% all the time. Now he's got better equipment. We might see a stronger and more mentally stronger Ruben Fernandez.
Another couple of guys, Marius Busrame, excuse our poor French pronunciation. He was good. He's always fast, but sometimes he rides a wee bit on the edge or perhaps over the edge. I don't think he necessarily did that in Russia. On third overall, very good starting point. Again, hard pack, you'd expect the French to be good there, but if he can smooth out those wee crashes and stuff, I think he's looking like he could be consistently up there this year.
I would agree. I watched Ernie, and watching him at Ernie, you were thinking this guy's not going to last the season. He was wild, but yes, he 100% didn't ride like that in Russia, and it was good to see him acknowledge in the press release after it that he knows he's too aggressive sometimes. So he knows that that's his weak area, and sometimes riders don't know what they have to improve on. So it's good that he knows that, and also having Mark DeRover there helping him should be a big benefit. He does a very good job at the FNH racing team, so
Mark
it
was
wouldn't
aggressive
surprise me.
himself, so if anyone's going to be able to work on lack of aggression, it's probably Mark. He can talk from experience.
Yeah, exactly. And he knows, Mark knows where it went wrong in his career at times, so he can advise the riders what not to do more than anything, more than what to do at times.
What about Maxime Renew? I thought he was going to be the guy to challenge Vial in Russia. The starts didn't go his way, although his speed looked good, but you're going to have to get the starts in this class.
Yeah, I had him nailed on for a podium, but again, starts. I think his speed was actually very good. I think his speed would have seen him probably on the podium if he got half decent starts, but I'm pretty sure he went down a couple of times in the second moto, and that class is pretty frantic. Nobody gives you an inch because they're just pushing, and it was a tricky track. So I think we can excuse it. It was still a solid start to the season, I would say. I still think he's going to be top 3 in the championship. I really do. I think he might be the man that comes closest to challenging Vial again if he can get out of the start. Except for Gertz, sorry, I'm excluding Gertz. Gertz 100% fit is obviously the next in line. But and just to talk on Gertz, very, very good. He showed a lot of fight in that second moto.
Yeah, he done better than what I was expecting him to do, especially after qualifying and that. But I think he showed his fighting spirit there, and he's definitely given himself a chance compared to what it looked like it was going to be going into the Grand Prix.
Exactly. Very, very, very good. So,
right, what about the rookies? We'll have Mattia Guadagnini, 8th overall, Thibaut Beniston, 11th overall, and Kay DeWolf, 16th overall. But Kay DeWolf was very, very fast for hardpack. I maybe expected a wee bit more out of Beniston. Well, I think that's going to come because I think that guy, he's going to be a class act in this class. And Mattia Guadagnini, he was fast as well. Not spectacular, crazy starts going wild at the front, but he settled down, got top 10 overall, and that's probably what KTM wanted for him in the first round.
Yes, I have to say, Kay DeWolf was 2 laps away from a top 10 overall in his GP debut at a track that is not a Kaido Wolf track. So I have to say, very, very impressed with his speed. I think he's got better equipment this year than what he had previously. I think they don't give Factory Husky don't give the EMX 250 guys the full factory bike. So I think that makes sense as to why he was better. But for that type of track, very, very impressive. There is one guy I would like to mention, a rookie, Andrea Adamo. He was very under the radar. He went 13-14 for 13th overall, but that was the Italian's first race since Valkenswaard and also his Grand Prix debut. So I thought he was very impressive with the SM Action Gas Gas. And I agree with you and with Guardonini. Very fast, but not great starts. And you can say the same about Thibaut Benistad. I feel like Benistad, once he adapts himself to the class, will be very, very fast. And he's maybe one of the riders that needs a year in a class before we see the best Benistad, because in the EMX 125 Championship, it was the second year he won the title. EMX 250, it was the second year he won the title. And it might be the same in MX2, but he definitely has podium speed and potential when it all clicks into place.
2 other young riders I thought did pretty well. Ronnie Hoffer coming off, and he's almost a rookie this year for all the time he got last year in the class. 5th overall, good rides. Of course, he got knocked down there in the last lap in the second moto, and he's still 4th for 5th overall. And Simon Lagenfelder, he was going really well last year, even when he was 15 years old, getting strong results in MX2. Again, solid. Maybe not spectacular, but he's very good, and I think he's going to have some breakout rides this year. But again, for a lot of these kids, it's going to be getting the start and going with the front to get that rhythm to show that pace.
I absolutely agree. I thought Ronnie Hoffer was very, very impressive. That kid I've rated very highly since forever, really, that I can remember. In the 85s, he was dominated everything.
He has been a name coming through. He hasn't come from nowhere.
And he's now showing that even with little MX2 Grand Prix experience, it's no problem to him. And the thing that impresses me the most is if you're watching him ride, it almost looks like he's not trying. He's just so smooth. You see some riders all over the shop, legs going everywhere, not nailing the ruts. He's just so smooth. Very effective way of riding, and I feel like he's got a very, very bright future, but he needs to stay fully fit this year after getting injured last year, and I think he can be top 5 in the championship because he's so consistent. He might not have the balls out speed to win, but I think consistently he'll definitely be 5th to 10th every week, and then on his good days he can be the podium guy. And Simon Lachenfelder, I have to agree, that kid is going to be good. Don't hear a lot said about him, but he's very impressive. He made a big jump from EMX 125 to MX2, and I kind of thought that was a bad move, but he's completely proved me wrong. It took him about a week in MX2 to show that he's got the pace for good results, and it's all about learning in that class. And who knows, he's probably the next German superstar.
It's maybe harsh to compare him to Ken Roczen, but he's the closest thing Germany have to Ken Roczen, and I don't think he's as far off as you think. The comparison's ridiculous, but if you're getting top 10, run top 5 when you're 15 years old in your rookie MX2 season, and then you get hurt, so you don't even get that full season, to come back, go top 10 again, a wee bit extra more experience. He was good in pre-season. I think people forget just how young he is and how little experience he has in this class.
Yeah, well, I would say Roczen is obviously a lot more talented, but talent isn't everything. If Lachenfelder can work hard, there's no reason why he can't go to the top and stay injury free as well. He's got a good factory gas Diga Procross team behind him, so it's a good fit.
What can you tell me about Jan Pankar, who was phenomenal in the first moto, and Bastian Bodam, who I think he had a crash, but he was pretty impressive as well in Russia.
Yeah, Jan Pankar, I can tell you he's not a factory rider, and he was
Nope.
battling with a lot of factory bikes. Very, very impressive. I thought he would have maybe been knocking on the door for a top 10, but to finish seventh and the way he done it was very, very impressive. He didn't get startled by any of the big names. He just went about his race, and that was it. Very good. And also in the second moto, he showed he can come through a pack. I'm pretty sure he was outside the top 20, and he found his way into the top 10 before a small crash. So he ended up 12th, but 10th overall. Very, very solid start to the season. But sand is probably going to be an issue. They don't have any sand in Slovenia,
Okay.
so he's just been racing hard packs or riding hard pack. But hard pack, there's no reason why you can't keep up the good performances on his race store KTM. Bastian Bodam, Dane talent, I rate very highly. I feel like Bennystadt gets a lot of credit, and rightly so, because he's very talented. But in my opinion, Bodam isn't far off. Just his injury last year ruined his season. After at Valkenswaard, the first round, a lot of people forget, but Bodam was phenomenal in the MX250 Open round. He went 1-1 and nobody seen his back wheel. But then he got a head injury, and I think he was riding with concussion. And what can you do? But he's got a lot of speed. I don't think it'll be that long until we see him in the top 10.
Right, the Aussies, Wilson Todd, 14th overall. I did an interview with him the week before Russia, and he was saying it's pretty much a stock bike with a pipe he was going to ride. He didn't feel his fitness was 100% for GPs yet, having come off the arm pump surgery about 3 weeks prior. But 14th overall, I think he went down with Gertz, if I remember right, in the first moto as well. So 14th overall, that's a strong start. And Jade Baiden, 7th overall. Of course, he was caught up in that Isaac Gifting crash, kind of ruined his overall position. But he had the speed. But again, Jade will want to be starting up at the front to try and run with Vial if he can. His last year in
Yeah,
MX2 as well.
yeah, I have to agree. I thought Jed, maybe I expected a little bit more, but it's the first round of the season, and maybe there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Because he, as you said, it's his last go at the title really before he moves up to MXGP, and he's not there to make up the numbers. But yeah, I don't think we need to worry. I think he'll still be a consistent top 5 rider, and he will get some podiums. Can he challenge Vial? It's going to be very difficult for anybody to challenge Vial. So the jury's still out in that one. Wilson Todd, yes. To be honest, at Matterley Basin last year at the opening round, I wasn't overly that impressed. So he started the season better this year and on a stock bike. So whatever he's doing is paying off, even with the arm pump surgery.
And he's expecting to get the bike more tuned up coming into the next few Grand Prix as well. So that will probably help starts, which will help the overall result alongside that fitness. So 14th overall in his situation is pretty good.
Yeah, I would have to agree. You would have to think he'll be targeting the top 10, but maybe it's a bad idea to set the targets too high. Just take it each week as it comes and see how it goes and develop as a rider in the class and go that way instead of putting the expectations too high. But there's no doubt that he has the potential to be a top 10 rider at least.
What about MX2 overall? To me, it still feels like it's a wee bit underrated because they have the under 23 rule, and people kind of then go, oh, it's an under 23 class. Not all the good guys are in it. It's a development class almost. But whenever you read down the names of the top 20 or so in that class, you have Vial, Fernandez, Borsami, Van de Moostek, Hoffer, Renew, Baiden, Guadagnini, Langenfelder, Pankar, Benistan, Gertz, Adamo, Wilson Todd, Carup, De Wolf, Rubini, Florian, Terasak, Bodam, Kevin Bruman, and down to 21st, and you'd obviously Isaac Gifting in 23rd, who crashed out. He's a factory gas rider who generally would be in the top 10. To me, that's a very strong class for a class that sometimes is underrated in certain quarters.
Yes, I 100% have to agree with that. A lot of riders in MX2, when they're in MX2, get zero credit. After MX2, they've got 2 career paths. If an American team tries to sign you, you consider that offer. Some end up in America, and if they don't end up in America, they go to MXGP. Whenever they go to MXGP and run at the front, or go to America and run at the front, they're all of a sudden they get highly rated when they've always been really fast and talented. So I have to agree. There's a lot of talent in MX2, and I feel like the pyramid system that in front motor racing implement is actually very good. I know a lot of people don't like the age rule. I personally am a fan of it. I just wish it was under 25 and then the EMX 250 was under 23. To me, it doesn't make sense that you can win the EMX 250 title and then be too old for MX2 the next year because it's the feeder class. So if it was under 23 in EMX 250 and under 25 in MX2, I think that would be the perfect format. Also, just to give guys an extra couple of years in case they get injuries, that can happen. And a motocross rider's career, as short as it is, but I feel like after 25, it's not a bad decision to make them go to MXGP, personally.
Well, it's definitely created an extremely deep class in MXGP. And there was guys that weren't even there. Obviously, Mitch Evans, Albie Ferrato wasn't there. Who was the other guy? Wasn't there as well?
Oh, there was a lot of riders.
Jasakonis wasn't there. There's 3 off the top of your head.
Brown Boggers.
Boggers wasn't there either. So, that class was deep in Russia. Never mind what it's going to be like at Matterley Basin whenever everybody comes back. And as you say, those are generally mostly MX2 riders moving up. So it actually vouches for the speed and the quality and the way the whole system's working in both classes.
Yeah, well, just to touch on the MXGP riders that weren't there at Russia, I do believe a lot of them will be back at Matterley Basin. So the speed's going to be a lot higher through the field, and some riders might have to re-evaluate a result because it's going to be very, very fast.
Yeah, Matterley should be, as long as the weather holds out and it's pretty dry, that's going to be a very, very intense race. There's a lot of guys now got their feet wet. They're not going to want to let Geyser have the run of the place again and get even more confidence. You've guys that didn't have good rounds, Glenn Coldenhoff, Ben Watson, home Grand Prix. They're going to be wanting to set the record straight, and you've the new guys coming in. Hopefully Mitch Evans, Jasakonis, etc. Ferrato, who could surprise people in his MXGP rookie season. I think it's possibly going to be more exciting than Russia was.
Yeah, it could well be. One thing I would say is I know you're hoping to stay dry, and I hope it's dry on the weekend as well, but I wouldn't mind a little bit of rain coming into it because last year the track was mega after rain, and it was the best I've ever seen Matterley Basin. Got very rough and technical. So I wouldn't mind rain coming into the weekend, and then if it stays dry over the weekend, it could be perfect. But yes, it's going to be very good racing. Matterley last year was incredible as well, with a stacked field, and I'm expecting nothing less this year, especially with the riders you mentioned coming back.
Okay, I think that's MXGP, MX2 wrapped up. We'll maybe look ahead to this weekend's racing. British Championship at Fox Hill. The MX1 class has been spectacular racing, 4 or 5 riders all on very similar pace. Fox Hill could be another cracker, and you have the added bonus of Stefan Everts doing a lap of honour as such at a track he had a lot of success on as well. With Liam and MX2, he has been riding very well this year, but hasn't quite been getting the starts. He's preparing for EMX2 at Matterley Basin. So Conrad Muse hopefully be healthier and able to ride more to his potential as well, along with against could be a good battle there with Wilson Todd.
Yes, well, Wilson Todd will be probably feeling confident going into Foxhills, whereas Muse was ill and sick, and it's hard to know how he'll be feeling going into the weekend. So it could definitely be a good battle, that actually. If both were in top form in his home country, you would probably have to say Conrad Muse is going to be hard to beat. But at the moment, it's a good chance for Wilson Todd to at least run wheels with him. But in terms of the championship, it doesn't matter for Todd anyway because he missed a round. So he can just go all out and whatever happens, happens. Muse does have a championship to protect there at the end of the day, so maybe won't be taking unnecessary risk. And on the MX1 class, yeah, it's stacked this year. You've got guys like Searle, Walsh, Derry, Simpson, Koulas. Could be a good one, and it'll be nice to see them in hardpack actually. After all the opening rounds have been in sand, so it could see a change at the front.
Does anyone fall out with Dylan Walsh on Saturday?
I would say probably. Tough guy to ride against. He just doesn't care, and he just goes flat out. Fair play.
He's just fast.
Yeah, very
he's
fast,
not intimidated by anyone.
Yeah,
as we saw in the Grand Prix last year as well.
Yes,
he's exciting.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. He's exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Right, we're looking forward to that. We've also got US Nationals back, this time at High Point, which is probably my favorite track that the US Nationals go to. Ken Rocks and Dylan Franz are setting the pace in America. Does anyone get in between them and start to challenge for this title that's potentially American or otherwise?
At the minute, you would have to say those two are the main men. You would have to say that. There's no getting away. Musquin might be a good track for Marvin Musquin this weekend.
Could be, yeah. Off Cambers.
Yeah, it could be a good one, but I'm having to back Ferrandis or Roxon personally at the moment. They're a lot of them. It's impressive speed they're showing over in America at the moment. Ferrandis is especially very, very impressive. Adam Cincerillo will never be that far away if he can keep it in two wheels and keep it consistent.
That's the question with Adam, isn't it? His speed's good there, but he has moments. What about what's Eli Tomac gonna do? Biggest question mark of the season. Just I don't know how a guy who can be so fast as in around 8th, 9th, and 10th. Does he turn it around?
It's very bizarre, isn't it? Very, very bizarre to see Tomac battling for the top 10 results. I know the field is more stacked than usual, but this is Eli Tomac. He has the capabilities to be right at the front there. Maybe you have to question his motivation a little. He's got a Yamaha contract now. Is he not willing to take unnecessary risk that he feels he has to take? Who knows? Only Eli can answer that one. But if he's on it and feeling good, there's no doubt he'll be right at the front. When we'll see that next remains to be seen.
And Cooper Webb, can he find some form? Ken Roxon must have taken great delight at the last round, passing him for the lead, and Webb not having any answer after the Supercross shenanigans. But High Point, Webb doesn't like getting beat. Apparently, he was pretty fuming after Colorado. Has he found anything in the weekend break, do you think?
Well, that's the one good thing going into AMA this weekend. They've had 2 weeks since the last round, so any riders that needed to find something have maybe had a wee bit more time to prepare and if maybe change settings if it's required. I don't think he'll, based on the first 2 rounds, I can't see him running at the very front. I think if Webb finishes 5th to 10th, that's a good way back to the top, so to say.
Right, 250 class over there. Jet Lawrence, who when he signed for Geico Honda, I'm not even sure if Geico Honda had heard of him, despite the fact he won an EMX2 race in the World Championship at 15 years old. So Europe and I'm sure Australia knew how talented he was because he'd been ripping things up through his youth career. So he wasn't exactly a surprise that he was fast. but I think they predominantly signed Hunter, and Jet came along. And now Jet went first overall. Hunter was third overall, so it's nice to see him getting back to some form. Health issues seem sorted. Hopefully, no more wee crashes, and he can get out the gate with Jet, with Justin Cooper, who looks like he's going to be Jet's biggest title threat on the fast star Yamaha with Jeremy Martin out. But the Lawrence brothers in Australia look pretty strong in the 250 US Nationals.
Yeah, Jet's just rapid, isn't he? He's fantastic to watch. Got a lovely style. He's got the speed. He's pretty much the complete package, really. Just at times he maybe gets a bit too eager, and that can lead to crashes. But he's a kid at the end of the day. As he learns how to deal with that, he'll only get better and better. He's my pick for the title this year. If he can just be smart when he needs to be, I think that's the biggest thing. Being smart when you need to be, taking a second if the win's out of the question instead of throwing it down the track. And yes, it's good to see Hunter finally show a bit of pace as well. I think everyone knows Hunter has the speed, but it's putting everything together sometimes is Hunter's problem, and he rides his heart on his sleeve every week, which also leads to crashes. So it's good to see that. And as you said, Justin Cooper is going to be the biggest threat to Jet in the championship. Has Justin got Jet speed? Probably not, but which in the championship battle might come down to it. It's going to be it could be a close one, that actually.
Can Mitch Payton's guys, Joe Shimoda, who's consistent and pretty fast, and then you've Austin Faulkner, who's supposed to be very fast, not being as fast as he was supposed to be. What happens with those two at High Point?
Yeah, it's definitely not the real Austin Faulkner. Sure, it isn't. There's definitely something not right there. In the second moto at the last round, he just looked knackered at the end. So definitely something not right. It's not nice to see that, actually. I always like riders being able to perform at their maximum. So unless he's found something miraculous over the last 2 weeks, it's going to be tough for him, I think. Again, if he can get 5th to 10th, probably a good starting point to improving towards the rest of the season. Shimoda, very consistent, very solid. Might not blow you away with speed, but if he can get the start, he's capable of running at the front and staying there, and he's good enough to learn off them other maybe faster riders.
Yeah, I'm quite impressed with him. He doesn't ride beyond his limit very often. But yet he's able to learn. Each week he seems to get a wee bit faster and a wee bit faster. And to come from Japan, do what he's doing.
Well, he's Kawasaki's #1 rider in the 250 class. He wasn't signed for that, but that just shows maybe how good he's been and how the others haven't really worked out as of yet.
Right, Andy, I think that is everything we need to cover for this inaugural podcast for GateDrop. Hopefully it went okay for everyone listening. Hopefully we'll possibly get a bit better. But for this first time, that's everything. Thanks for listening. And hopefully there'll be a second one after the Matterley GP. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Bye, Andy.
Thanks, guys. Bye.